we don't have the perspective, for example, that AI is going to replace the financial advisor. We don't look at it and say, AI is, robo advisor 2.0. We look at it as how can the financial advisor leverage AI to have more efficiency and scale in their business and actually select better investment options for the individuals that they're advising.
Welcome to Technovation. I'm your host, Peter High. My guest today is James Rhodes. James is the president of Morningstar Data Research and Enterprise Solutions and the company's chief technology officer. He oversees the business unit that includes Morningstar's flagship platform, Morningstar Direct, Morningstar Advisor Workstation, and delivery of Morningstar's unique data and research to clients through data feeds, APIs, and enterprise components. As Chief Technology Officer for Morningstar, James is also responsible for the company's technology vision and execution strategy. He's an expert at understanding complex legacy software architectures and transforming them into modern, scalable, user-friendly systems. I certainly look forward to gaining his insights on how best to do that among a variety of topics I'm sure we'll cover through this interview. James, welcome to Technovation. It's great to speak with you today.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure. Well, maybe we could take a quick moment, James, and discuss Morningstar's business more generally speaking for those who may be less familiar with it. Can you provide a brief overview?
Sure. I'd say at our core, we're a research and data company, specifically targeted into the financial services sector. And I like to say that we touch all elements of the financial services sector. So we have products and offerings that are B2C, so individual investors who are interested in getting into investing. And then we cover everything from the advice ecosystem to the asset management ecosystem globally. And we cover all types of markets. So whether it's public markets or private markets, we have data and research on all of these different things.
That's a great overview, James. Thank you. And I wanted to also ask for a bit more detail as to your role as president of Morningstar Data Research and Enterprise Solutions, as well as CTO. Can you talk a bit about the various parts of that title?
Sure. Yeah, I actually I tell people I wear three hats here at Morningstar. No hat on today, but I do have three. The first one is I'm president of what we call our enterprise business unit, which is roughly 800 million of Morningstar's revenue, and it's a combination of software products. And you listed a few in your kind introduction of me. So our flagship product, Direct, Advisor Workstation, which is the dominant software platform used in North America, and then it goes all the way to our research offerings, our API offerings, our data feeds, etc. So that's one hat, and for that I run sales and marketing and products, technology, etc. The second is I'm our chief technology officer. So think of the first role as a vertical role running a business unit within Morningstar. And then the chief technology officer role is kind of that horizontal role where I oversee technology for all of Morningstar. So that includes everything from our corporate infrastructure, our corporate systems, our help desk, networking, InfoSec, et cetera. So all of those things that you would kind of consider your core corporate IT functions. And then the third hat I wear is I actually oversee our data and analytics operations. And so that is ranges from our data collections analysts, who are all of our employees that are around the world collecting our data, all the way to our quant developers, who are the quant engineers creating all the models and what I call really smart IP that sometimes goes way above my head.
Well, I mentioned in the introduction also your expertise in understanding complex legacy software architectures and transforming them into modern, scalable, user-friendly systems. I wonder how that expertise has been applied in an organization like Morningstar.
Well, Morningstar has been around for 40 years, and as you might imagine, we've built a lot of things over those 40 years. And every time you build something new, you don't necessarily retire the legacy things that it was replacing. So I think over the years, whether it's our data infrastructure and how we process and intake data to our actual software products themselves, there's quite a bit of history that still lingers around, or as the tech team always tells me, how much time are we going to allocate to technical debt and figuring out how to solve the technical debt challenge. But ultimately, we've kind of approached it as data is our core asset and what's really built this company. And so from a modernization perspective, how do we leverage new modern technologies and platforms and techniques to really make sure that the core underpinnings of our business are on a modern scalable platform? And we spend a lot of time really figuring out that core data architecture and creating kind of a scalable data lake environment. And now that's expanded to we have a data lake, a lakefront, and lake houses, and lots of lake, lots of lake terminology going around. But the ultimate goal is making sure all of the data that's needed for all of Morningstar's products is in one central scalable place, and then you can easily plug in analytics on top of that data to deliver it out to our clients.
Well, given your headquarters location on the Great Lake of Lake Michigan, appropriate that there's a lot of lake
Yeah, a
analogy
lot, a
here.
lot of lake analogies that are used.
Well, I know another area in which you focus is personalization at scale. And a topic that applies in a variety of different industries, especially in this day and age where data and its analysis and synthesis can provide insights at a more granular level. Talk a bit about its application in your business.
Yeah, so especially in the financial space, people don't want cookie cutter solutions. They don't want something that's mass developed and sold out to the world. When they go into talk to a financial advisor, they want that advisor to make sure that they understand them as a person, understand them as their, family situation, or, what their goals and objectives are, and actually construct portfolios that align with those values and those needs. And so we've moved from a world where maybe a one size fits all or a few sizes fits many, to a world where people want to know that they're being listened to and heard, and then what's being presented back to them is based on that information. And that presents some unique challenges because people obviously have a lot of different perspectives on a lot of different things. And so when you think about how do you take all of the information you're capturing about a person and all of the information that you're capturing around financial investments and put that together in a way that is scalable, it becomes a quite complex problem, both on understanding the profiling of the individual and then on the actual analytics and algorithms to figure out what is the best combination out of all of the possible options available to meet those needs. And that part is very non-trivial because if you look at the growth of investment options that are available to individuals, it's grown by leaps and bounds over the past, even just decade. Right. So and a good example would be, as I said, Morningstar covers all segments of kind of the financial ecosystem. We have private investments and public investments. Private equity and venture used to be something that was only reserved for the, family offices or institutional investors or the ultra high net worth investors. But now that's getting pushed down into more of the retail space. So still not at the full, if you have $10,000, you can go put it in a private equity fund, but the bar has come down to the amount of assets you need to have before you're able to actually put it into investment vehicles that weren't available before. So now you have to think about, back to this concept of personalization, and I'm looking at you, Peter, as an individual, and you might have a different risk appetite than somebody else. And now I have a whole new investment universe that's available to you, right? How do I take something that doesn't have a long history of being available to a certain population and now incorporate that into the analysis of what is the best fit for you as an individual?
And you've alluded to, but I want to even cover more directly, if you don't mind, James.
Sure.
You've alluded to the fact that yours is a majority B2B and historically B2B business, but you need to
Correct.
factor in the B2C as well. So in other words, helping your clients enable their clients, if you will. As you think about personalization at a multi-level set of factors, how do you bear that in mind? How do you take that into consideration across the sort of multi-levels of its application?
Yeah, and it really is a connected ecosystem, right? And investors are the ones with the money to put into motion, but they go to advisors for advice on how to do that. So you see kind of that consumer demand coming in through the advice channel. What are people who are coming to advisors interested in putting their money into, right? And then the advice channel creates demand on the asset management side, right? The advice channel is going to sit there and say, well, in a high interest rate environment, there's more demand for fixed income products and offerings. What's out there and what's unique and what's differentiated and what aligns with this individual's interests. And so then that demand feeds back into the asset management world. right? Who now goes into the product creation life cycle. They have to develop products, whether it's ETFs or mutual funds or other investment vehicles that actually can fill that demand. And then it connects all the way back to the individual, because when the individual says, okay, here's my money, I'm going to invest, that's what actually winds up in the pockets of the asset managers to put into the portfolio.
And what do you see? You alluded briefly to artificial intelligence, and I'd love to understand your thoughts about its ability to augment what you've described, or the extent to which it replaces some of what has been traditionally a set of exercises to breathe life into what you've described. What is the role of AI?
Yeah, I mean, it actually has a role in all parts of that stack, and the way we look at it is how do we enable all parts of the stack to have better insights and efficiencies in how they do their jobs. So we don't have the perspective, for example, that AI is going to replace the financial advisor. We don't look at it and say, AI is, robo advisor 2.0. We look at it as how can the financial advisor leverage AI to have more efficiency and scale in their business and actually select better investment options for the individuals that they're advising. And also, I would say how they have better client engagement with their clients. For example, you could imagine a world where an advisor creates a proposal, sends it off to an individual, and then there's an interactive either chatbot or digital person that person can engage with that helps walk them through what's in the proposal. Why is it good? What are the benefits to them as an individual? And to us, that is a question of scale and efficiency and providing a better user experience for both the advisor and the individual. And then you can go kind of like on the research workflow, right? Like, I'm sure have heard data is the new oil and all of this other wonderful stuff. But the reality is that there is so much data being produced on a daily basis today. It is really, really hard to synthesize what actually matters. Right. And so whether you're a portfolio manager at an asset manager or an advisor or an individual who just wants to learn what the heck is going on and what information should I care about, it is really hard to sit there and subscribe to all the, media sites and newsletters and research providers who are just producing a deluge of content and information at you. So like, how can you leverage things like AI to help you read and analyze all of that content to synthesize the key points that matter to you?
Very interesting. And I know that you've also established a responsible AI council as you
Yeah.
contemplate AI and its use. Talk a bit about the rationale behind it, as well as the mission of the council.
Yeah, I mean, so I would start by saying that anything can give you an answer, but you want to make sure it's a good answer, right? So, so the kind of the guiding principles of if you're going to apply what some might consider a black box technology to an important part of everybody's life, finance matters to everybody. Like, how do you do it in a way where you can ensure that you're providing good, trustworthy answers back and that you have a high quality? And so when we took a step back and said, okay, we need to make sure that we have a position on how we do these things responsibly, which includes everything from what types of things will allow our teams to analyze, because there is also a lot of questions out there in the world around private information and what are you doing with the data I send you, and are you retraining your models based on the insights they provide you, and really being very clear with everybody, both internally and externally, what are the principles that guide us on how we're leveraging this technology across the organization, and whether that's in our products or within how our own employees are leveraging the technology. What can you do, what can't you do, and what should you do?
And I know this ultimately a guiding principle for you is that of trust, that that's a critical
It
element
is.
to what you do. Can you talk a little bit about your thought process there? It's a logical centerpiece to what you've just described, is making sure that you are developing these and leveraging these innovations in a way that does not erode trust. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the importance of that.
Yeah, and it really goes back to the core of who we are at Morningstar. When Joe founded the company 40 years ago, the impetus behind it was how do we provide transparency into a seemingly opaque world, and that world at the time was mutual fund data. Very, very hard to get your hands on and understand what was actually going on. But a lot of the money in the investing world were going to these products. So it was all about how do we provide transparency into this particular space, and that's just permeated throughout everything that Morningstar does. And you see that today with how we're adopting AI throughout the ecosystem that we have here. And a good example would be when we released Mo, our chatbot. Trust and transparency was very important to us. So one of the first features we released right after it was put out there was actually providing links to the source documents of where it actually pulled the content from to construct the answer. So it would give our users a sense of they could rely on this because it would summarize it, and if they wanted to dig in deeper to what the answer was saying, right there was the links to the source on where the content came from that helped construct the answer. So everything we do is all about not just enabling capabilities and providing value to our clients, but doing it in a trustworthy and responsible way. And part of that is being fully transparent with how you're doing these things.
I'd love to have you talk a little bit more about Mo, your chatbot, and your plans for it, as well as what you've learned from its implementation to date. Talk a bit more about the evolution of Mo.
Yeah, so Mo started off as what we would call a digital research assistant, and essentially trying to tackle that problem of Morningstar ourselves. We produce a lot of content, a lot of long form research reports. How do we enable our users to better synthesize what our research and content was saying in a simple way that they could interact with in kind of this chat-like interface? I would say that we have big ambitions for Mo, and specifically what we call the brain of Mo, the intelligence engine, which is kind of the back end that does all the heavy lifting. But it was really then to say, okay, now that we have this out in the world, let's understand what users are trying to do with it. So there was a lot of time spent looking at the types of questions that were coming in, and let's make sure they have a good experience with it. So on the analyzing and understanding what they're trying to do with it, the first thing that jumped out at us is that even though it was positioned as this digital research assistant, people tend to ask it what I would call simple data point retrieval questions. Right? What is the stock price of Apple? What is the rating of Tesla? Those types of things, which an LLM is not particularly well suited to answer, especially since it was being fed long form research and editorial reports that don't have the most current information their point in time. So there was a lot of focus on how do we spend some time up front on understanding the inputs and making sure that we have the appropriate technology in place where, depending on what the questions are asking, we can route the traffic to the right spot. So if you're asking for a simple data point retrieval, we're not going to throw it over to the LLM. We use some classifiers to understand the question, but then we actually just call a regular API in the back end, get the data back, and then we've used the LLM to kind of construct the answer that gets sent back to the user. We also found that different corpus of data were better suited for answering different types of questions. So if you're asking a question of what's the difference between BlackRock and Vanguard, you probably don't want our editorial content. You probably want our research content, which describes those two firms. So that is another set of features that we put in that does basically corpus selection based on the question that comes in to find the most appropriate corpus to answer the question and return the results. Along those lines, a lot of focus has been on adding additional content in, whether those are user manuals, help manuals, so you can provide in-tool support. And then internally, we've started using the back end of Mo to have more efficiencies within our own business operations. And the example I'll use is, one of the corpus that we have is all of our product marketing material for our applications. And so now internally, you can go and ask Mo, hey, I'm meeting with Peter. He's a portfolio manager at a large asset manager. They're interested in direct. Create an email campaign for me so I can engage Peter on a personalized level. And Mo will now construct a, hi, Peter, this is James from Morningstar. I'd love to talk to you about how direct could be a tremendous amount of value for you in your portfolio construction process. And so that's actually helped to save a significant amount of time just in how we have outreach to our clients and prospects. So it's kind of that continued evolution of adding content, capabilities, and expanding it to broader use cases beyond the just digital assistant.
As you think about those broader use cases and the evolution so far, what sort of value are you most excited about, let's say, in the medium term? Not yet necessarily clear and present, but that the progress made would suggest is possible.
I think if you look through, I would go to our internal functions on the sales and marketing side, medium term. And I guess I would take a step back and say how we evaluate it is look at roles that are heavily focused on content production, right? And anything you can do to not replace the content production, but to get a starting point for it has been super valuable. So if I rewind, and that sales example that I gave you just 6 months ago, it was a person that sat down with a blank Outlook screen. Hi, Peter, and they'd type it all out, and they would spend a lot of their time constructing a fair amount of the content is boilerplate content, right? And so you're required as that person to understand all that product marketing material, and then understand you as an individual and your persona, what you're going to care about, and then start from scratch on figuring out how I'm going to engage with you. And now just to have that efficiency of being able to go in and start with something, and it's kind of shifted the model from content creator to content editor. So it's not so much like replacing the role, it's actually enabling them to spend more time on the things that we think are truly value add rather than the things that just have to be part of what they're doing. So if I look at the medium term functions that can benefit from that, sales, marketing, support, all of those kinds of client facing type applications.
Very interesting indeed. James, we've talked about a number of trends of consequence that Morningstar and you and your teams are taking advantage of. As you look to the future, any others that particularly excite you?
I am still a believer. If you go and Google Mo, you'll see our CEO Kunal interacting with the digital avatar version of Mo on the stage at our conference last year. And I'm still a firm believer that as technology continues to improve, the concept of digital people attached to this AI technology is going to become a real thing. Like the avatar of Mo that can all talk with, you could still tell it was computer generated. The motions are kind of funny or robotic. The voice wasn't quite right. But as the technology continues to evolve, both on the software and the hardware side of the house, like I believe in 3 to 5 years, I could be having this Zoom call with you right now, Peter, and I have no idea if you are a person or not. And so then you start thinking through the implications of that. Like I can now, for my support organization, provide Zoom video support to everybody. So they're talking to an actual individual, whether that individual is real or not, the person may never know. All right. But they get that personalized experience. I can go to our clients and that little example I gave earlier about an advisor having their clients able to interact with a chatbot on a proposal. Like, no, they could have a video call with someone to walk them through that. And that whole interaction could be a branded experience that the advisor provides that isn't an actual person, right? They've hired a digital person. So, and maybe I'm a little out in left field on that, and fine, I'll accept that. But I would say my role as CTO and specifically overseeing InfoSec, I can tell you that the technology is getting there. And what I mean by that is we've had plenty of people attempt to kind of hack our systems by cloning people's voices and sending WhatsApp messages to people with a cloned voice of our CEO saying, I need you to wire $50,000 into this account. It's really important. Right. And so I know those attacks are now becoming more prevalent all over the place, but it really comes down to the technology and the advancements of being able to do these things. So I do really think that the next evolution is not just a simple chat interface I type into, but actual voice and video engagement.
I also wanted to ask you, James, As you reflect on your own career journey, are there any difference makers along the way that have propelled you forward to the heights that you've reached? Any secrets to your success that you might suggest?
Being close to the clients and understanding what they value and what you're building. So I started out the tech. I'm a tech guy. My background's in text analytics and data mining. Right. I started out as a developer. But I think sometimes when you're on the tech side, you kind of lose sight into what is the user actually going to do with the thing you're building. It's like, how do you step away from the technical problem you're trying to solve to the client problem you're trying to solve, and never losing sight of what that benefit is to the client. And I think that's just having a different mindset of like, I don't only have to understand Java or JavaScript or Python, pick your programming language that you're interested in. But I actually have to understand the client and the business, and what is that client trying to do, and what is the value to the client of the thing that I'm building.
Very well said. Well, James Rhodes, thank you so much for a terrific conversation, for sharing so many insights reflective of the exciting future that you foresee at Morningstar.
Or scary future.
As the case may be. We'll stay tuned, to say the
We'll
least.
see. We'll see. We'll do this again in 5 years.
I'll look forward to it, James. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks, Peter.